Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elise if you're new, and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today I want to share my second trimester, update you on everything that happened during that time. I am currently in my third trimester, and so I just wanted to sit down and reflect on some of the things that have happened along the second trimester. So I moved to Germany in Cologne back in 2020 in December in the midst of the pandemic, and I've been living here ever since with my fiance Jay, and I've been documenting all the experiences, all the things that have been happening since living here. So if you're interested in following along my journey, then hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss a new video. So this is my first pregnancy, and coming off of the first trimester was such a relief. I made a previous video about my first trimester. I will link it in the cards. The first trimester was challenging. I had nausea in the evenings and the afternoon. I was so pleased to reach 14 weeks, and when I started to feel a lot more myself. So it was about week 14 that I started to notice that I had a little bit of a baby bump. Very small, but yeah, I could notice it. That was a really special feeling, just to know that yes, something's happening and baby's growing. Also in week 14, when I came back to Germany, I noticed that my skin started to break out with the Imperial Dermatitis, which I have had before. I had it back in 2020 and it was a lot worse back then. I just had lots of redness around my nose area and around the chin area. I went and saw a dermatologist, and they just suggested that you don't do anything, you don't put anything on your skin, no makeup, no creams, otherwise it will just irritate it. I didn't put anything on it. I tried to just work around that sort of space, which is just not ideal. It's not a good look, but yeah, I wanted it to go away as fast as it could go. But it hung around for a good month or two, I think 2 months. So it was definitely something that stuck around for a long time, and it just made me feel the pits. Having a rash on your face is not ideal. But now my face is all cleared up, thankfully. So I'm back to doing my normal routine, and yeah, thank goodness that is behind me now. But it's one of those things that can always come back. So in week 15 and 16, I was definitely feeling more myself, which I was so happy with. I felt like I could eat more. I was really into salads and fruits. And as like summer was approaching, I was just feeling that summer vibe, and I just wanted everything fresh. My stomach was really starting to feel itchy around that sort of stage. And so I would make sure that I would moisturize and put the bio oil on just to keep it nourished. But I was just like, oh, I can just feel it was like super itchy. But that didn't last forever. It did go away. So I usually suffer from like Restless Leg Syndrome in the evenings. And so basically what that means is I just get super fidgety when I'm tired. So if I'm like watching TV at the end of the day, I just notice that my legs start to wriggle a lot and I just can't get comfortable. And for me, that's just like a sign, Elise, you are tired, it's time to go to bed. Otherwise, I'll just be sitting there wriggling the whole time, annoying anyone around me. But since the pregnancy, that has like intensified, and I'm super wriggly, and I guess I'm more tired, so that I'm noticing I just can't sit still. I have to get up and I have to do something, whether it be some tidying or just moving around the house. I don't seem to have that same focus of like sitting and watching a movie when I'm tired. So in weeks 18 and 19, my appetite was back in full swing. I wanted everything and anything. I was enjoying food, I was enjoying life, and everything was good. I didn't really have any like particular cravings as such. There wasn't anything strange out of the ordinary that I wouldn't normally eat that I really wanted. It was more just, I just wanted to have lots of snacks, and that was yummy. And I still really loved everything fresh and salads, and like coming up to summer, like barbecues and things like that. Like I was all about that. And I did enjoy a hot chocolate when I went to my German lessons. That was just like my little treat, which was so nice. But it was around this time too that I noticed that my feet were starting to feel really sore. Just like walking around the house, I couldn't walk just sort of barefoot or with socks. I had to have like some slides or some slippers on, I just felt quite sore to walk around on my feet. And it was also around this time when I would be like working at my desk, you know, editing a video or doing something on the computer, and I would start to feel like the tiniest little flutters in my stomach, and I would always question, like, was that something? Because I haven't been through it before, so I didn't know. But now looking back, I'm definitely thinking, yes, they were my little early flutters of feeling baby movements. It was just like, it wouldn't happen very often, but it was just like, I think I can feel something. And I was just like, I think this is it. I think I'm feeling something. It was so exciting. When I had my doctor's appointment in Australia at 12 weeks, the doctor did say that my placenta was sitting at the front of my stomach, so it would kind of act a bit as a cushion and I wouldn't feel as much so early on. So I would need to wait till later before I felt any real movements. But I definitely think that I was starting to feel some flutters around 18 weeks. Maybe even a little bit earlier than that, because I think maybe around 16 weeks I started to feel really slight things, and I thought that was the baby flutters, but it was a little bit more noticeable around 18 weeks. So in week 20 to 23, that is when I guess the placenta is fully developed, and swelling in my feet was definitely a real big thing. I usually have quite a slender foot, and so the puffing was noticeable straight away. The soles of my feet were also still really sore, so just making sure I was wearing shoes around the house, some comfy shoes. Even when I was going outside, like my normal shoes were starting to feel like they weren't fitting me. And it was starting to get hot weather too, and I didn't want to have to bend down to do buckles up. So I went out and bought myself some Birkenstocks, which were the best purchase ever. I've loved those shoes. I was a bit skeptical at first because I felt them and they feel like really hard to touch, but I've heard that they're quite good for pregnancy and that they got a really good shape for the feet. I tried them on and I've been wearing them throughout this whole pregnancy, and I do have to say they have been game changing. I love those. I love those shoes. They have been so good because you can just slip into them as well. You don't have to do any buckles up. And because it's quite wide, it's been good for my swollen feet. I have to say that there are some times when I put them on and you can just see the swelling just sort of bubbling up around them. So they're not swelling proof, but they have been the best for me so far. And yeah, I definitely recommend those shoes. So week 23 was a big change for me. I had my gestational diabetes test during this week, and so I went to my gynecologist for the appointment and I drank the glucose drink. And after I drank it, it tasted fine. There was no issues with that. They put on a little monitor to just measure the heartbeat, just to make sure everything was fine with baby, while I waited for an hour. Then after the hour, I did a blood test to see how my blood sugar levels were. And I didn't get the results for a couple of days later, but they said if they do come back a little bit high, then you'll need to go for another test. So unfortunately, they did come back a little bit high, and so I went to a diabetes doctor, a specialist. I did another blood test there, lots of blood tests. This time I waited 2 hours. So after an hour I did a test, and after the second hour I did a test, and then I got to go home. But that test needed to be fasted, so from the evening, the day before, up until my appointment that morning, I wasn't allowed to eat anything. I was just allowed to have water. The results did come back a little bit high again. So from those blood tests, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. The reason why they do this test is just to make sure that the baby doesn't grow too much during the pregnancy, because with gestational diabetes, there's more blood sugars running through your bloodstream, and so that can make the baby grow bigger, and so that will lead to more complications when giving birth, as well as after birth too. So that was a bummer, but it's something that I've been able to manage throughout my diet. I haven't had to go on any extra medication, which is good, but it has been a struggle to change the diet because it's very strict. And I was loving the carbs. Like, I love my pasta, my breads. The German bread is so good. So really limiting my carb intake because carbs turn into blood sugars. That was quite challenging, and having absolutely no sweets from then on throughout the pregnancy. So no cakes, no biscuits, no chocolate, nothing sweet. You're allowed to have fruit as like a nice little snack. They're obviously natural sugars, but you have to have those in moderation as well. So just for a snack in between meals, and not like big portions either. So you're not allowed to have like a fruit smoothie because you can pack in the fruits and it'll just be way too much. So Jay's been making his nice smoothies and I've been very jealous. And so I've been managing my blood sugar levels by doing finger prick tests. So I've got my kit, my pricker, my tester and the strips, and it comes in a little case so I can carry that around. But yes, so I do it 4 times a day, first thing in the morning before I eat, an hour after I eat breakfast, an hour after I eat lunch, and an hour after dinner. I need to make sure that I'm hitting certain targets, that I'm within the range of good blood sugar levels. That was a little bit tricky to sort of work out at the start. I was sort of trying different foods and working out what worked for me, because everyone's different. What works for some people might not work for others. So that was a bit of an emotional roller coaster at first. And being pregnant, like, you're hungry and you want to eat what you want to eat, but there's just sometimes you just can't do that. But now I'm feeling a lot better. I'm managing what I'm eating, and I know what sort of works for me and what will set me off, and also stepping up a little bit more exercise, so doing more walks and things like that. But I tell you what, I cannot wait until after the baby's born, because that is apparently when everything is supposed to go back to normal. I will have to do a test about 6 weeks after the baby's born just to make sure that my levels are all back to normal. But yes, I am looking forward to some nice treats after this pregnancy. I'm putting in my request to Jay, all the things that I would like after the baby's born. I have been going to see my diabetes doctor every 2 weeks since I was diagnosed, and I log all my numbers in this yellow book here, and I write down what I've been eating for meals. So she just takes a photocopy each time I go there and make sure that everything is okay, and I get to ask any questions or to ask any advice. Now that she's seen that I'm managing it quite fine, I've been going every 3 weeks, and now I don't have to write in what I'm eating because it is pretty much the same most times of the day. In week 24, after I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, I went for another scan just because I'm in that older bracket. I'm 35 years old and everything was looking good. The doctor was saying that there's no sort of signs that the gestational diabetes is having an impact on the baby, like the size is all normal, which I was relieved to hear. They also did like a thorough check of like the organs and checking the sizing of the baby, making sure that everything was looking good, and thankfully everything was good. She also did a 3D scan, but unfortunately for me, my baby was sort of like pushed up right against the placenta like a pillow, and he had his hands in front of his face, so we didn't really get a good picture, unfortunately. But it wasn't something that I paid extra for. It's something that's been included in my insurance, so yes, and I just have the normal insurance. So in week 26, after watching so many videos of gestational diabetes diet plans, what other people were doing, I was feeling a lot more confident with just being in a routine of what I was eating and just getting ideas, because it is hard, like thinking of what to prepare for meals each day, and a lot of the time I've just been having the same things, which is really boring, but I just know what gets me good numbers, and so I've sort of been sticking to that. Controlling the numbers has definitely helped me feel a lot more energized throughout the day and a lot more focused. So from week 27, maybe even a bit earlier, I did notice that when I would wake up from sleep that I'd get like pins and needles in my hands. Sleeping on your side during pregnancy is not something that's usual for me. I usually sleep on my stomach, and so sleeping on my side has definitely been a bit harder, but having like the pregnancy pillow definitely is a must. It makes it easier to sleep on your side when you're not used to it. But when I would wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I would notice that my fingers and my hands were quite numb or tingly, and that seems to be a normal pregnancy symptom as well. And as the weeks have sort of progressed, my hands have been getting quite stiff and a little bit swollen as well. Even like doing my makeup in the morning or brushing my hair, having my hand up, I'd notice that it would start to go a bit numb, and I'd be like, just to try to get some feeling back into it again. And also when waking up in the morning and just getting out of bed, my feet would just be, they would feel so sore, like I've been walking for hours. But generally speaking, I've been in really good health. I haven't had any like real pain. I haven't had any Braxton Hicks contractions or anything like that. Everything has been quite smooth apart from the gestational diabetes, but I've been able to manage that quite fine, and I haven't had to go on medication, so I'm really thankful for that. You know, the swelling sort of is quite typical with pregnancy, so I've been going to see my gynecologist once a month, and we do like standard routine procedures, and I've had a couple of scans, which is nice. We do have a Hebamme, which is like a midwife in Germany, and because there's a bit of a shortage of Hebammes and they're in demand, and so when we found one, we were so relieved. She's so lovely, and she's seen us twice now. Doesn't speak English. She understands a little bit of English, but Jay's been here to help sort of translate for me. And she will be coming now after the baby is born and helping with me adjusting to mum life, making sure that baby is good weight, I am coping and nursing okay, and that is also included with the insurance here too. So that brings me to the end of my second trimester update. Thank you so much for watching. If you're expecting a baby, maybe you've had similar sort of symptoms to me, or maybe yours has been totally different, comment down below and let me know how your pregnancy is going. I would love to hear. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps support my channel. And if you're new, please consider subscribing. I am looking forward to sharing more content with you guys as the pregnancy progresses, and I will be bringing you a third trimester update real soon. So that's all for now. I hope you all have a lovely week, and I hope to see you again next week. Take care. Bye.
Done growing up, had enough of chasing down the sun, but suddenly